Arr, 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 arr. That's Chen's I want food bark, which is different from his I don't like what's going on bark. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Kenji. We're gonna make some breakfast sandwiches today. Actually, we're gonna make a homemade version of, well, a sandwich inspired by the Egg McMuffin, which is arguably the first breakfast sandwich. Well, it's not really the first breakfast sandwiches. Breakfast sandwiches were around since the 19th century in the U.S. You know, sandwiches with meat and eggs and cheese. That's sort of what I would call a breakfast sandwich. Although at the time, this is at least according to Heather Arndt Anderson in her book Breakfast: A History. I think that's what the book's called. She wrote about how there were, you know, workers would take sandwiches with eggs and meat and cheese, inexpensive sandwiches in a soft roll for lunch. But it was 1981 that McDonald's introduced the Egg McMuffin, which I think is arguably the very first true breakfast sandwich, something that was designed to be eaten for breakfast. And it was actually the same year that they introduced the McRib. Curiously enough, I don't know what that has to do with anything. By the way, all right, so I'm starting with some bacon. I'm going to stick them in a nonstick pan here, a 10-inch nonstick pan. I'm using the chef's press, a round one. You don't have to, you know. I find it works really well for bacon though, because it keeps it from curling up, and I think that's really useful for a breakfast sandwich situation. Anyhow, while that cooks, I'm going to start splitting my English muffins. You're going to notice I'm going to use my knife to split my English muffin, and some people might balk at that and say that I need to split my English muffin with a fork. If I was just toasting my English muffin in a toaster, I would use a fork because I like to have those kind of, you know, those nooks and crannies. But in this situation, I'm going to be laying them flat down in the skillet, and I want good contact between the muffin and the bacon grease that we're going to be frying them in. So in this case, I'm going to use my knife rather than fork splitting it. So anyhow, yeah, breakfast sandwiches, McDonald's, invented by McDonald's in 1981. Very soon after that, I think that year it accounted for like 18% of McDonald's sales total was breakfast sandwiches, incredibly. So after that, a lot of the other fast food franchises started producing breakfast sandwiches as well, and well, just breakfast in general. So a typical Egg McMuffin is made with a English muffin, a slice of American cheese. Usually the slice of American cheese is on the bottom, which is very strange. What they call the round egg, which even at McDonald's these days, they still start with a real egg. It's not some kind of Frankenstein egg product. It's a real egg that they crack and they break into a ring mold, and then they cook on the flat top. They kind of steam cook it in this Teflon mold. And then they take the egg out, put it on top of the cheese, and then there's a slice of Canadian bacon that is generally kind of plasticky and not very well fried and not very tasty. Then it's all closed up, wrapped, and handed to you. I think there's a few ways we can make it a little bit better. I like the concept. I think there's a few ways we can make it a little bit better. First of all, I'm going to start with regular American-style bacon. Well, not that Canadian bacon is necessarily Canadian, but Canadian bacon is what you would call back bacon in most countries. So in Canada, it would be called back bacon. Sometimes if it's coated in cornmeal, it's called pea meal bacon. Canadian bacon is made with pork loin. So the part of the this muscle down here, the same muscle that if you get it out of a steer, out of a cow, would be your New York strip or your ribeye. Pork loin is very lean. So when you take the whole pork loin and you cure it the same way that you would cure bacon, cure it and smoke it, that becomes Canadian bacon. What we have here is made from pork belly. You know, American bacon is it will be called streaky bacon in most other countries. Canada, the UK, other places where they have bacon, it would be called streaky bacon because it has streaks of fat and muscle. It's made with pork belly. So I'm going to be using regular old American bacon here. Give it a little flip. From pretty moderate heat for the bacon. I want it to render really well because I want the bacon slices to kind of stay crispy once they go into the sandwich. You know, my mom, growing up, she would make her bacon in a real hot pan, and we would get bacon slices that had a sort of contrast between some crispy bits and chewy bits, and that's what you get when you cook your bacon real hot, which can be, you know, I guess a good thing. It depends how you like your bacon. But for the case of the sandwich, I want my bacon to be almost completely crispy so that it stays crispy even as I cook the eggs and the cheese. All right, so while that bacon goes, I'm also going to get some eggs ready. I've got a bowl. Couple bowls. These eggs, by the way, so the other time when I made the last video I made, people were asking where, it was about how to crack eggs. testing out a few different methods to crack eggs. People ask me where I got eggs that were that bright orange. I get them from Uwajimaya. You can also get them at Asian Family Market. They're the golden fertile eggs. The gold color of the egg doesn't really have to do anything to do with, it doesn't really have much to do with flavor or nutrition or anything. Golden eggs really, when you're blindfolded, they taste pretty much identical. In every test I've done, true blind taste test, nobody can really tell the difference between eggs that are darker in color versus lighter in color. It really comes down to the amount of carotenoid pigments that are in a chicken's feed. So if you feed a chicken lots of flowers, particularly things like marigold leaves and things like that are going to give them that orange color, then their egg yolks will come out more orange. Otherwise, they won't. All right, so our bacon is foamy, which means it's done. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of that bacon fat and save some of it for later. Actually, we're a little bit hot right now. This Iwatani burner, I use it for my wok, so it gets up to, I think it's like 35,000 BTU, which is about double what like a normal stovetop is. So it actually gets real hot. Here we go. We're going to take our English muffins. And while that last muffin top cooks, I'm going to start working on my eggs. All right, so my egg method, what I sometimes do, so depending on whether you like to have your eggs with a sort of brown layer on the bottom or not, that sort of fried texture or not, what you can do is you can take a ring molder. What I use actually is the jar of a wide mouth, the lid of a wide mouth mason jar, and just stick it in here. You can do it directly on the pan with the mason jar lid sitting like this. That sort of captures the egg in there. Or if you want to do it sort of more the McDonald's style, where the egg is really kind of steamed as opposed to browned at all, what I do is I actually take the full lid with the insert and everything. And what I'm going to do is I'll take that lid and I will brush it with the that bacon grease that I reserved from before, just to make sure that it's nice and non-stick. I know there's probably plastic or chemicals in here or something that that will I'm sure someone will point out in the comments. But this will be your test. If you point it out in the comments, please say, proceed your comment with the phrase "muffin lasts forever," and that way I'll know that you've actually watched the video before you start commenting about things like this. All right. So we're going to put this in here directly in the bottom of the pan, okay? And then we're going to take our eggs, and they're going to go straight into those pan lids. 1, 2. I am going to give them a little poke here to break the yolk. And that's not just because that's the way McDonald's does it. I think it's actually better to do it that way. I don't like when I get a squirt of yolk out onto my shirt when I'm eating a breakfast sandwich. I actually this is a case where I want my yolks to be at least medium cooked as opposed to liquidy and runny. All right, and finally I'm going to take a little splash of water. Water and a lid. And we're just going to let those eggs kind of steam, cook. So now, the way McDonald's does it, what they do is they will put the American cheese on the bottom of the muffin before they put the egg on top. Honestly, I think the reason they do that is nothing to do with quality. It has more to do with operations. The efficiency of how they manage their line and the way that they put their sandwiches together and the way that line operates. So at home we don't have to worry about that stuff. We have one slightly under toasted bun, but that's okay. So at home we are going to use American cheese, but we're going to put it on top of the egg instead. So American cheese. You might ask why we're using American cheese as opposed to another type of cheese, something like cheddar or something, something that's a little bit more flavorful. The main reason why is because American cheese melts a lot better than anything else. And the reason that it does that is because it has emulsifying salts in it. So there is American cheese, it's not fake cheese. American cheese is real cheese. So it starts with something like cheddar or Colby is generally what American cheese starts as. And what they do is they take those cheeses, then they melt them with additional milk proteins, and then an emulsifying salt, typically sodium citrate. And what that does is it makes it so that as the cheese melts, the proteins don't pull together too tightly, and so the fat doesn't get squeezed out, the water doesn't get squeezed out, and so it melts a lot better than any other type of cheese does. And that's really the only reason why we use American cheese as opposed to something else. I am using the deli sliced kind. This is locally we get Dietz and Watson. I'm using deli sliced American cheese, which I think has a little bit better flavor than something like a Kraft single. But honestly, any American cheese is really going to work. It's mainly a texture element here. All right, so our eggs, are we set? Looks like we're nice and set here. So we're going to start by putting our eggs on the bottom. Is that right, Lena? Do we put the eggs on the bottom?
Eggs, cheese, meat.
Bacon, eggs, cheese, meat. All right. All right, so I'm going to take these eggs out.
Well, no, that's not true. McDonald's is cheese, egg, meat.
Yeah, McDonald's is cheese, egg, meat. We're doing the opposite. We're doing the other way around because we want the cheese to actually melt. All right, so we get our egg. We're going to put our cheese as our kind of binding layer, and then we're going to finish it off with some bacon here. Okay, then we're going to close this. And now it's not going to look great yet, but that's okay. There's one more step we're going to finish this with. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah, Chen. Dog really wants some. You can get a taste at the end. Eggs. Slice of cheese. And our bacon. Okay. So once these sandwiches are in this state, this is the final sort of key step for me. I'm going to grab a couple pieces of foil. And a quick wipe out. Okay. Then we're going to wrap our sandwiches. Sort of deli style. So if you ever lived in New York and you've had a bodega sandwich, like a bodega bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, what they do, those are made on a Kaiser roll, not an English muffin. But what they do is after they make them, they wrap them in deli paper, and then then you go out in the street, and a couple minutes later, you open it up, and everything's kind of steamed together, and the cheese is really nicely melted, and it all just it gets that cosmic oneness that you look for in a good sandwich. What I'm doing is I'm going to put them in foil like this. I'm going to place them in the pan just for a couple moments to heat up both sides. Doesn't take long. You want to let Chen over for a taste? All right. I think we're done here. Let's pull those out and see what we got. Should we cut one in half, or should we just open it? Oh, hi, Chen. All right. Got our one here. Let's try and cut in half. Let's see what it. Yeah, hi, Chen. Yeah. All right. Ow, ow. Ow, ow. That's Chen's I want food bark, which is different from his I don't like what's going on bark. Although often when he wants food, he doesn't like what's going on because he doesn't get the food. All right, let's try it. Ooh, ah. It tastes good. It tastes like it tastes the way an egg McMuffin would taste if it was made with bacon and better ingredients and a little bit more care to making sure the cheese melts and the textures are on. Yeah, Jen, here you go. Ready? Good boy. All right. All right. So the keys here are split the English muffin with a knife so that you get that flat surface. Cook it in the bacon grease if you're using bacon. Otherwise, you can use butter, whatever you want. Cook the eggs inside the lid of a mason jar that you've brushed. Inside the lid of a mason jar that you've brushed with that bacon fat so that it doesn't stick, and that gives you that nice round egg shape. And then finally, when you stack everything and layer it together, use American cheese, wrap it up in foil, and then give it a little bit of a toast so that everything kind of melds together into a magically delicious sandwich. Here you go, Chen. All right. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, four-legged friends. See you next time.